Hi, how you doing?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I hope you're doing well too. Just let me know what you need and I'm here to help.
Well, I'm kind of in a sticky situation. I got pulled over in New York City. I have my license, and I have a license to carry, but I have 3 kilos of cocaine in the trunk. Are they allowed to search my vehicle?
Well, that's definitely a pretty serious situation. So here's the general idea. If you're pulled over and the police have probable cause to believe there's something illegal in the car, like they see something in plain view or they have another reason to suspect there's contraband, they can search your vehicle without a warrant. Now, if they don't have probable cause, they generally need your consent or some other legal basis. But when it comes to something as serious as drugs in the trunk, if they do find it, that can lead to some pretty significant charges. So it's definitely a tricky spot to be in.
Okay, so there's nothing in plain sight, and they said that they pulled me over because I was speeding. Are they allowed to search my vehicle?
Yeah, that's a good follow-up. So if they just pulled you over for something like speeding and there's nothing in plain sight and no obvious smell or anything like that, they wouldn't typically have the right to just search your vehicle without either your consent or some sort of probable cause. Speeding alone doesn't automatically give them the right to search your car, so if there's no other reason and you haven't given consent, they generally shouldn't be searching it just based on a traffic stop for speeding.
So you're saying if they search my vehicle, it's illegal?
Right. So in that scenario, if they don't have a valid reason, like no probable cause and you didn't give consent, then yes, a search could be considered illegal.
It's Hoffa, trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rapper.
King Tut, I ain't thinking about, man. He just kind of dissed me though, man, when he got out.
Who?
You know? King Tut.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Was he on papers?
Yeah, he's on papers. King Tut was in he was in Lewisburg with me for maybe about 5 or 6 years, but he had major problems in there because the robbery that he was taking credit for with Tupac, he was living off that image in jail, and a lot of people that was in jail know that it wasn't him. You know, they know who it was, and it was other individuals, and that was creating a major headache for him. And
Is that something you can speak on?
well, I'm saying I can, but I wouldn't go into too much detail about it. You know what I'm saying? Because he came out afterwards when he got released, and he clarified that it wasn't him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But everybody thought it was.
Yeah. Actually, like I said, he carried that image while he was in there that it was him. You know what I'm saying? And until he started running into people like Dexter Isaac, and those guys know what happened. They know the details, which only a person involved would know the details and stuff like that and so on.
Are you at liberty to give the details?
No, I don't know the details myself. I would just be guessing or going by what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You know, the details are basically that I know is that it was somebody else. It wasn't him. You know what I'm saying?
But he was there that night.
Who?
Tut.
I don't think Tut was even there.
This whole time?
Yeah, I don't think he was there.
Wow.
You know.
Tell them Dexter's side of the story.
See, that's Dexter. See, that's why I say I would like to, if you did have a chance, some of these guys, I can get them on the phone with you. Because they call me all the time. Like you see an X-Tor, they call me like maybe 2-3 times a week, you know, talking, and they would do a live phone and give you their side of the story. Because sometimes it's hard to give people's side of the story because they'll come back and say, that's not what I meant, or I didn't say that, you know, and you know, this creates headaches. And
give me a case where that happened.
What's that?
You got somebody's side of the story, and then it wasn't what they meant.
Well, you got a lot of them. You could say, for example, Tut would probably tell you, I was there at the robbery, but I didn't do the robbery. And in reality, he wasn't there. You see what I'm saying? So the story is like they call a half lie, half truth, where it's like it's difficult to sometimes to challenge, you know.
But was he convicted for that?
No, not really.
When you say not really?
He received most of his time in the federal system, and the reason I say not really, because a lot of people don't understand the federal system when it comes time to impose a sentence. A lot of times you get convicted for stuff you did in the past and you got away with, or stuff that they didn't prove.
Like OJ.
Right.
So basically you get tried for something,
Right.
railroaded for something else.
Like you have a lot of people with life sentences on drug cases that involve cross references to murder, and they were never charged with murder or never convicted of a murder, but they're doing a life sentence for a murder. Yep, that's what I said. That's exactly what I said.
So totally unrelated.
Unrelated. They call them cross reference. The court will say that it's related because the court will say that this murder happened in the furtherance of the conspiracy. And even though you wasn't convicted of it, we believe that you had some involvement in it, and we believe that you participated in it. So we're gonna hold you accountable and sentence you to life for that particular murder.
With no evidence or anything, just suspicion.
No evidence.
That sounds like RICO.
Oh, that's part of it. That's part of what it is. When you start dealing with the RICO statute, the 848 statute, and the conspiracy statute, that's what you're dealing with. Hearsay, other acts, uncharged conduct, charged conduct, real conduct, and actual conduct.
So you've been seeing all this stuff going on in hip hop. What's your opinion?
The hip hop is that's where they turn in the market to. It's no longer the street corner drug dealers. It's the hip hop artists that's taking their money, investing their money into drugs or being involved in drugs. They're using that as a avenue to take them off the streets, to seize their money, to take their money and to put them out of business. With little or no evidence.
Little or no evidence. And do you believe that the RICO itself is a conspiracy against hip hop artists?
I believe the RICO is a conspiracy against anybody committing criminal acts that they cannot charge or cannot convict. It allows them to use, again, hearsay evidence, little evidence. It allows them to convict you not on actual proof and evidence, but to convict you on a theory.
All right, we back. My expert opinion. I'm sitting here conversing with a lifesaver. Well, he started off saving himself from a triple life sentence.
Yes.
We got Tommy Walker in the building. You'll find out throughout this conversation the people that he's helped. It's a lot of very popular names. And let's get to the story.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. Before I was here as a guest, and that was on behalf of reggae artist Junior Reed.
Shout out to Junior Reed.
Yeah, shout out to Junior Reed and his daughter. The beautiful family. I believe she's actually going home in the next 2 or 3 months. Her time is short. Her mother is home, and so on. I received 3 life sentences back in '95. It was a result of the United States war on drugs. And at that particular time, there were a lot of people that was being convicted on, I know you guys probably heard the expressions, ghost drugs, relevant conduct, uncharged conduct, and so on.
What are ghost drugs?
Ghost drugs means that you're being convicted or sentenced based upon drugs that was never caught, that was never seized or never had. It's like the fisherman story. Somebody say, what do you know about Tommy Walker. And they said, oh, for the last 5 years, me and Tommy Walker sold a kilo of cocaine every week. And what they do is they take that statement and they calculate it into a kilo of cocaine for every week for a year. And then you get sentenced to that amount of drugs.
52 kilos.
Right.
And this is legal? At the time, this was legal?
You got brothers still doing life sentences now. You got brothers doing 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years now for those type of crimes. Actually, in my case, for example, I was sentenced under the harsh penalties of crack, and there was drugs seized, not from me, but from somebody else, and that drug tested for positive for cocaine, and they converted the cocaine into crack because they were told that that's what we did. So we were sentenced under the crack penalties and not the powder penalty, even though no powder was seized.
No crack was seized.
And the chemist's testimony at that particular time testified that the substance that was seized was actually powder cocaine, and they never did a test for crack cocaine at all.
While you were in this position, what was going through your mind?
Well,
like you're saying that these drugs weren't even found on you. How were you even wrapped up in this whole thing?
At first, I couldn't believe it. Like most people, if you tell them the story, they don't believe it. And then when I started assisting and helping people in their cases, I realized it wasn't just me. It was 90% of the people that was in there and was being sentenced for crimes that they didn't commit or crimes that was never proven and crimes that was based on hearsay. I started to realize that we had a system that allows people to sell testimony and to walk on their charges, and that would allow other individuals to be convicted, to get life sentences, to get mandatory sentences, and the individual who was actually caught with the drugs or was actually caught with the gun is the one who would end up getting probation or either walking while everybody else is doing the time.
And basically swapping bodies.
Swapping bodies, exactly. You know, you see a little bit in, if you remember John Gotti's case, right? Mm-hmm. He received all of the time for the murders, but Sammy the Bull received, I think 7 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. And he had 19 murders, you know? So when you start looking at that, you're saying, who's the dangerous guy here?
Right.
You know, you're releasing him back out to the street, giving him a pass, and then you're putting somebody in jail for a life sentence who doesn't have the guts or the nerves to commit the crime, to commit the murder. Right. He's paying somebody else to commit the crime.
Well, I gotta ask, in that case, I would say John Gotti was definitely targeted. Mm-hmm. Did you feel like you were targeted?
Yes, I feel like I was targeted. I feel like a lot of people were targeted. And you see it now, in my opinion, in this music industry, and that's what's happening. I feel that P. Diddy was targeted too. You know, I felt that the crimes that he was facing was much bigger than him. It was about another situation. I thought that it was about the alcohol, the attitude that he had with that business and stuff like that and so on. You know, and you have a system that once you become targeted, you know, you're almost in a no-win situation with these laws, the way that they're designed and the procedures and stuff like that and so on. You know, and that's why you have more cases today that's going federal than they are state. The state has the ability, in most cases, to follow the law and the Constitution because the federal government stands behind them and they do checks and balances. Mm-hmm. But when you get to the federal court system, there is no checks and balances, you know. And I'll just give you an example. If you file a complaint against your attorney, the prosecutor represents him. If you file a complaint against the judge, the prosecutor represents him. You know what I'm saying? So you're in a circle where you're in a no-win situation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're definitely against the odds there.
In your case, Did you have a lawyer, a paid lawyer?
I had a paid lawyer. He was actually a family member. And what they did was when he let it be known that I was fighting and we wasn't looking to take a plea, what they did was they arrested his sister and kicked him off the case for a conflict of interest. And once they did that, then I was forced to represent myself at trial because I didn't trust a court-appointed attorney. I didn't have any more money to pay for an attorney. So I decided to represent myself, and the court appointed what they call a standby attorney, to assist me with any decisions that I might have.
Why do you feel like you were targeted?
One, I had a lawsuit against the police department for false arrest, for robbing me and stealing some of my money in a prior case. And they had difficulties getting me because I'm just gonna say, I was a little bit too smart for them. And so what they did was they called the feds in and they gave a fabricated case to the feds that I was one of the largest heroin dealers in the upstate area. And they talked about how I was making $2 to $3 million a week. And of course, that was a case that the caught their interest and they jumped in. And then when after they made the arrest, and then they realized it wasn't that type of case, but it was too late for them to get out. And that's one of the big myths that I could tell you about federal cases. And I think it was shown in P. Diddy's case too. People always say, once the feds come get you, they have you, they got you, there's no getting out. If you look at 90% of these federal cases, these cases are built and put together after they make the arrest. They have the theory. They're using these broad laws, the RICO laws, the continuous criminal enterprise law, which is the CCE. They're using the conspiracy laws. And what they do is they create a theory and then they purchase that theory through testimony of other people that's in trouble. Like if I had, and I can't remember the number exactly off the top of my head, if I had 17 people that testified against me at my trial, all 17 of those people were arrested with me and after me. So where was the case prior to that? You know what I'm saying?
Break that down.
The case, if none of those people would have cooperated or testified to save themselves under the fake theory, okay, then who would have testified against me at trial? Nobody. The people that they used to testify against me at trial were the people that was arrested with me and after me. So what I'm trying to say is, you can't put the cart before the horse.
Right. Where you getting your case from?
Exactly. So where was the case to justify the arrest? You know, like I give you something that goes over big and it goes past a lot of people's head. One of the things that the federal government does when it comes down to sentencing you to a life sentence or to a mandatory sentence, they use drug quantity, right? You know, one of the big myths that a lot of people overlook, and I'm just going to use my indictment to give the details, was that when I was indicted, my indictment didn't have any drug quantity in it. Why didn't it have any drug quantity? Because of the ghost drugs. The drugs didn't exist.
Right.
Now, as I sat there and I helped other people, I could see certain people had drug quantities in their indictment. On 5th Street, he was caught with 5 kilos and 5 grams, okay? So you had a lot of people who was doing life sentence and mandatory sentences with no drug quantity in the indictment. So when it came time for me to argue for bail, I asked for a bail and the judge denied the bail, and he denied the bail because he told me I was facing a life sentence. And so I said, Your Honor, how am I facing a life sentence? From what? He says, from the drugs. And then I said, what drugs? He says, the drug quantity. And I said, there's no drug quantity in my indictment, so how do you know I'm facing a life sentence?
Right.
But you get the bail. He basically told me it's a few things that you don't know or you don't understand about the federal system. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you're charged with a crime, and that crime doesn't get proven or it doesn't get established until after the trial or during the trial.
Right.
So the whole time you're facing a ghost. You can't
You don't
really
know what-
defend yourself.
what
You
you're
don't know what to
defending
fight. You don't know. And then when you finally get sentenced, when the jury is instructed that the defendant is charged with selling drugs and narcotics, but you're not to be concerned with the amount of drugs or the type of drugs that's involved in this conspiracy. Then once you get convicted, and in most cases you're going to get convicted because the jury's going to use simple logic. Oh, well, there was a couple of guys that pled guilty that had were caught with drugs, so we believe that drugs was involved. The judge tell us, don't worry about the quantity, don't worry about the amount. So when you get found guilty of that conspiracy, then at the end, the judge and the prosecutor, they come in and they recommend the amount of drugs that was involved. And if you start to notice in everybody's cases, right, the amount always comes out exactly to what is needed to trigger the mandatory minimum or what is needed to trigger the life sentence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. So basically, it reaches a quota.
Right.
All right, this is the quota. We want you to do this amount of time, so we're going to say you had this amount of drugs.
Exactly.
Which would equate to the time.
Correct.
And that's with no evidence at all.
That's-
it's just
no,
a
that's
bunch of people rolling over and saying, okay, I'll say this.
Right. And see, what they're saying is their theory is that their evidence is their testimony, and the jury believed their testimony.
But these are all people who have cases that they're fighting.
Right.
And they're
exactly.
taking plea agreements
Exactly.
to throw a case on you.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
You see, like, even when you come back to, you know, it was a little topic earlier about snitching, right? And you mentioned a Gunna case and Young Thug and this plea was go on.
Right.
We are being manipulated to plead guilty to crimes that we did not commit. We're being put in a situation to say 10 years or either you can go home today. You don't have to tell me anything. All you have to do is say that a conspiracy exists.
Because I don't get to see what it is I'm going to be fighting.
Right. And so once you say that a conspiracy exists, okay, then the government has, once you get that first plea, the government has established beyond a reasonable doubt that a conspiracy exists.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a conspiracy, you only need two or more people to agree. Everybody else don't have to have the knowledge of what went on in the conspiracy. They don't have to know the drugs. They don't have to know the type of drugs. All the government has to do is prove that they were a member of that conspiracy. Then they can be held accountable for anything that goes on in that conspiracy.
So in the case of Gunna, when he took the plea, I saw an interview where Young Thug said that kind of set a lot of things off. Is that true?
Well, I'm saying it depends on who eyes you're looking at it through. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as a person that's on the indictment with you, you're saying to yourself, yes, this guy is telling, because what he's doing is he's supporting the government's theory. Again, most of us get convicted on the theory, not the crime, not
Right.
what we actually did.
Right.
So when the government is saying, a conspiracy exists, ask Gunna. And Gunna's that's saying yes, but he's not telling on nobody. He's helping the government establish that a conspiracy exists.
And that's basically all they need?
That's
what you're saying?
all they need to establish the conspiracy. So now when a jury looking at it, the jury's not looking at the evidence as it is applicable to you.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking at the evidence as to how they was instructed that they could find that the conspiracy exists. The conspiracy can exist from two or more people, and we got 5 people that pled guilty. So how are you telling me that a conspiracy don't exist?
So once you admit to the guilt. That pretty much puts everybody else in hot water, even if their testimony is not applicable to your case.
That's correct. Because you're entering a guilty plea that usually reads like this. I, Tommy Walker, agree that I conspired with those alleged in indictment and those known and unknown. So now what I'm saying is that I agree with what the government says. I conspired with all of those people that's listed in there with me. So you can't get around that once you enter a plea.
And that's all the evidence that they need to convict other people.
That's all the evidence they need to establish the conspiracy.
Right. Then
they would have to still show that you were a member of that conspiracy. And that takes a little bit evidence and no evidence. You know, because you got instructions like conscious avoidance instructions. And what conscious avoidance instruction means, like, for example, Math, if you believe that Tommy was doing something illegally and you don't know what it was, and you sat there with blinders on and you decided not to do anything or say nothing about it, then you can hold Math accountable for anything that Tommy did. It's conscious avoidance instruction.
So in the case of Thug, like if we were to compare Young Thug and Diddy's case, where you have people admitting that they partook in certain activities, how was Diddy able to get around the RICO and Thug still had to plead out?
Well, Thug was convinced, in my opinion, by his attorney to plea out. You know what I'm saying? If you look at Thug's plea, his plea actually, in my opinion, was not that great of a plea because of the stipulations and the tie that they still have to him, and that one mistake could still cost him 15 years of his life. You know what I'm saying?
When you say it's not that great of a plea,
again, you have a lot of stipulations with these plea agreements. And if he do the wrong thing, if he threaten the wrong person, he can violate that plea, and then he would have to go to jail and do 15 years.
15 years.
You know what I'm saying?
And he's on a probationary period of like 15 years?
Right, exactly.
So in the case of Diddy, how was he able to negate that?
His attorneys, they did a good job fighting, and when you start looking at the totality of the circumstances, the fact that Cassie had already received money for damages done to her, you know, these are factors that probably went through the jurors' mind and stuff like that, that they're already getting paid for, and that I think Diddy's lawyers did a good job as far as presenting his case as to showing that these was just adults having fun. You understand what I'm saying? These were adults living like adults with money. You know what I'm saying? And the prosecutor never really, in my opinion, never really proved the case that he actually charged Diddy of, you know?
Okay. So rewinding, I'm gonna come back to you on that. Rewinding. Okay, you're sentenced with a triple life charge because you had to defend yourself. What was that like?
That was difficult because at first, the difficult task is, how do you defend a lie? How do you fight a ghost? You know, so one of the things that I did was I decided to go to school, first and foremost, educate myself, and I decided to study case law and study cases. And what I did was I studied the prosecutor's theory, how they operated, how they function, and so on. And I would, unlike most people, I wouldn't read the cases that was successful and won. I would read the cases that lost, because I would want to know why they lost, what they did wrong, what they should have did, what is the court saying that they didn't do, what is the court saying that they didn't prove. And I started studying in using the prosecutor's methods, the prosecutor's strategy, and I started learning to listen first before I talk and before I debate, and make sure I understand and establish their position and their foundation. Then it becomes easier for me to attack and defend once I'm able to hold them to that position.
In the meantime, what's going on personally? Like, when you hear, like, okay, we sentence you to triple life.
I cared. I just didn't believe it because I know deep down in my heart what I did and what I didn't do. I know that I was a drug dealer, I was a drug seller. There was no doubt about that. But drug kingpin status and some of the stories that they told, I just said to myself, the truth that's got to come to the light. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to come to the light. But the truth never did come to the light. What was successful for me was the accomplishments that I had while I was incarcerated, that I was going to school there, I was educating other inmates, I was giving classes, I was trying to teach inmates how to read and write better, how to understand what was going on in their cases, how to communicate better with their lawyers, how to communicate better with their families and stuff like that, and so on. And I realized that we were in a system that if we don't come together and we don't fight together, we're going to lose. It's going to destroy the community, the Black and brown community, like you wouldn't believe, And we just wasn't aware of what was happening to us. So I tried to educate people as to how to fight their cases, how to look at it differently, and how to change their mindset and stuff like that. And I stayed focused on that more so than anything, and that kept me out of trouble. It kept me grounded, and before you know it, I had a bunch of accomplishments, and I used to follow the laws, the new laws that came out, study them, read them. I used to order congressional transcripts. I used to read them and see what the purpose was for the new laws and stuff like that and so on. When the compassionate release law came out, I realized that it was a law that helped open the doors for people like myself that was in jail on ghost drugs and stuff like that.
The
False
compassion
testimony.
release.
Yeah,
Break that down.
a lot of people call it also a 3582 motion. It allows the court to have a second look at your case and review your case and say, okay, we just gave this man 10 years. Is 10 years enough? Is it too much? What is he doing? Is he showing signs of rehabilitation and stuff like that and so on? So once that law came out, I realized that they gave the court an opportunity to look at your case and to take a second look. And so what I did was I asked the court to take a second look at my case, and I put down some of the accomplishments that I had, a couple of victories in the United States Supreme Court, a couple of victories with testimony from other inmates that I helped overturn their life sentences, a lot of inmates that I helped get their sentences reduced down to reasonable times, maybe somebody from 50 years to 5 years, somebody from 50 years to 10 years, and stuff like that. These guys gave testimony to support me. And not only that, the staff and the education department that I work for, they gave letters in support of me having a reduced sentence. And so
You think they released you because you were helping too much people?
I thought about that too. That did bother me because
Right.
actually one of the letters that one of the staff members gave me was I started out and I had maybe 5 students to 10 students in my first class. But by the time the end of the year left, I was getting an average of 30 to 60 students in each class, and the numbers for the classes was growing like crazy. And
This was a law class?
yeah, I was doing, well, actually not, I couldn't do law. I was doing educational classes, teaching people how to write letters, to find out what's going on in the case, to communicate with their lawyers, to ask their lawyers what's happening in their case and stuff like that.
Consultation.
How to research, right? How to research case law and stuff like that, and so on, you know, and how to deal with the issue and not their feelings, because you have so many people that deal with their feelings and presenting their arguments and stuff like that,
Right.
and rather than deal with the issue. So I just try to get people focus on what's relevant, you know.
What advice would you have given Tory Lanez?
That's a difficult one. That's a good question, though. You know, see, advice.
You've overlooked this case before.
Yeah, advice is hard for people. The hardest part that I find is you have to find people that's willing to listen. They don't have to accept what you're giving. So, you know, when you're going into that, like I told you earlier, I helped Prince out, right?
Right.
One of the things with me and Prince, we had a couple of conflicts back and forth, but it wasn't that he wasn't listening. It was just that you had a clash of heads with two drug kingpins trying to tell each other what to do. And when you have, say, for example, drug kingpins, it's difficult to tell them what to do, give them instructions, because they used to being the boss, and they used to telling other people what to do.
Right.
And everybody's also so used to following instructions. So a lot of times when you're talking to people, and I'm not saying that to say anything bad about Prince. Prince was very intelligent. He was very aware of his case, what was going on, what he needed and what he didn't need. For example, I wanted him to do a compassionate release motion. He said, no, I want to do a 404B motion. But he was smart enough to sit down with you and have an intelligent conversation as to why. A lot of people are not. You know, so you can't give them advice. And sometimes you'll burn yourself out by trying to give them advice, because I used to always tell people, you want help, you need help, but you won't let me help you. You know what I'm saying? Because people want to do things their way. And how do you do things your way? And this is what I used to try to teach people in school, when you don't understand the rules and the procedures. You know, like you might have some top-notch paralegals that's helping people, assisting people in writing motions and drafting their motions, and then you ask them, hey, what's Rule 4? And they have no idea.
They can't tell you.
They can't tell you.
What is Rule 4, by the way?
Just so
I know.
Rule 4 in a 2255 motion is like a summary motion, a summary judgment motion. You know, it's when the judge makes a ruling on your case. You know, but like I said, you got so many different rules, and most people don't take the time out to read them, to study them, and so on, you know.
How long did it take you to become versed in all this stuff?
Well, I don't still think I'm versed in it, you know what I'm saying? Because I pick up, one of the reasons I designed Paralegal Pal is to assist me in my law work. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because the laws change. Like, you might think that you are aware of a rule, but 2 days ago, they might have changed it in the court system. And so Rule 10A don't mean the same thing that it used to mean 2 days ago. Now you might have to find or apply Rule 10B. You know, so you have to be prepared to research, shepherdize, and update your legal research almost every day.
I mean, okay, so how long did it take for you before you were able to teach other people?
Ooh, I think when I first started teaching the classes, I think I was into about 20 years or so.
20.
You know what I'm saying? Right, yeah. You know, and I don't think that I was smart enough or wise enough to teach. One of the things that I did realize is that a person with a third grade education is much smarter than the person with a first grade education. So I figured I still had to, no matter where I was, I had to share the information or the knowledge that I had with other people to make them a little bit better than they actually was, you know.
Some people listened and it benefited them.
Right.
What do you think the wall was for the people that didn't listen?
Some people don't know how to listen. If you look at statistics, show that in a daily conversation, 85% of your people don't listen. you got maybe about 15% of people that actually listen with the intent to understand. And most of your daily conversations, you have people listen with the intent to rebuttal or respond and not to understand why you're saying certain things and so on.
You mentioned emotions earlier. What stopped you from being emotional? Or did you go through that phase?
I went through that phase. I most definitely went through that phase, but then I realized that it wasn't getting me nowhere. When you sit there and you pay attention to your responses, if you watch what the prosecutors are saying, and you watch and listen to what the judge is saying, and you listen with the intent to understand, you can see it a lot better. You know, you can see, oh my God, what he's saying is correct. I'm actually doing something wrong. A lot of us, our ego won't let us see it. We want to be so right or so correct that we listen with a deaf ear and a closed mind. And so we say, oh, he's doing this to me because I'm black, or he's doing this to me because he doesn't understand me or he doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? In reality, it's you who don't care to listen or to understand what's being said to you. You know, like one of the things that caught my attention is at mainline is when you have chow, when you go in to eat, right? At lunchtime, they usually have the counselors and case managers there. So as an inmate, if you have any complaints, you can go to your counselor and your case manager and talk to them, ask them questions, and they have an obligation or duty to help you out. And so I used to always see this one guy go to his counselor and case manager, and he used to say, man, I asked you to do this 10 times, man. You haven't done it yet. And I'm tired of asking you, man. And what I got to do? I got to go to your boss. I got to do this. And the counselor was saying something real simple. All you got to do is put it on a BP-8, which is a form, a request asking me what you're going to do, what you want me to do. And if you don't do that, then I'm not going to answer your request. And so when I looked at the rules, right, the rules said that a counselor or case manager don't have to answer an oral request, but he must. It's mandatory that he answer a request that's in writing. So if this guy would have just listened to what he said, took 5-10 minutes and put it in writing, he would have had his answer. But instead he chose not to. Maybe he couldn't read it right. I don't know. But he, you know.
Or maybe he was emotional.
Or maybe he was emotional and just didn't care to listen to what he was saying, or thought by telling you, if I'm telling you, what do I have to put it in writing for? You know, but not looking at the fact that what he's telling them is, because my rules are saying I don't have to do anything until you do this. If you don't do A or B, then I can't help you. And that was a great learning point for me, because I realized that in drafting law and doing law, if you don't follow the procedures of the court, then the court doesn't have to listen to you. And if you look at 90% of the law, not the laws, but the opinions and the motions that get denied that defendants file, it's because they fail to follow procedures. And the courts are not even going to the merits of the claim because they didn't follow the simple rules.
So what were the stipulations that brought you your freedom? How did you once you started? I mean, besides helping everybody else get out, like what overturned your situation? Because 3 consecutive life sentences, you know, you're not 175 right now.
Right.
So.
You know, well, see, a lot of it has to do with listening and learning, and by helping and assisting other people in their cases, it gave me the opportunity to self-educate myself by looking at what they did wrong in their case, looking at some of the opinions, looking to see what the judge said against them, looking to see what the prosecutor said against them, and stuff like that. Then I would say to myself, oh God, I can't do that. Or I have to watch what I say here. I have to watch what I do here. You know, so that helped me in drafting my arguments, focusing on writing a motion or petition, knowing and understanding who my reader is. I can write something for you and you don't even understand it. You look at it, you don't like it. But if you're paying me to do it, I don't care if you don't like it or understand it because you're paying me to write it for the judge. So I have to make sure that the judge understand it and like it and it means something to him. You follow what I'm saying? But you have some people that want to pay you to write something the way that they want to write it, but it's not going anywhere. It sounds good. I can write a letter for you, a petition for you that sounds good. You can show it to all your homeboys. They say, oh man, this is excellent, man. Yeah, you laid it down, you showed them. But it doesn't meet the criteria that's necessary to have success.
So you figured out the criteria for your situation.
Right. Well, see, if you look at the rules, right, each rule give you a criteria that have to be met. So now you have to look at your facts of your case and you have to see if the facts of your case apply to that criteria. If they don't, then you have to find a different rule.
What was the rule that you found?
The rule that I found was the compassionate release motion that gave the court a second chance to look at your case. I came to a realization that regardless of how crooked the federal system was, they wasn't gonna make amends and say, oh, well, we made a mistake. We shouldn't have gave you that much time.
Right.
Or, we realized we sentenced you to ghost drugs. So I felt that by programming, educating myself, helping other people, running these programs would give them reason or justification to say, oh, well, we put him in jail, we gave him 3 life sentences, but look what he's doing. Look what he's done. He doesn't need to be here. And that's what I fell into. The judge granted my petition on post-conviction rehabilitation. The things that I did, how I helped the people, the school, the working. Like when I was in there, I worked for the law department there. I worked for the education department, and I also did volunteer work for lawyers on the street. And at the same time, helping and assisting people that was incarcerated.
How did it feel?
I'm saying it felt great, but first it was kind of difficult because you say to yourself, what is freedom after doing 25 years? And then you have to adjust and adopt to a whole brand new world, a whole brand new system. You know what I'm saying? You have to adjust and adopt to finding employment, educating yourself, getting familiar with technology. That's a part of the reason why I designed the app, because when I came out of the system, it was difficult to find people to help me, like my little grandson. This dude here, I think I done gave him about $50,000 in McDonald's money, to show me how to help with the technology of the computers and the system. That's to show him how things work. And then he got to a point where he got real smart. If he thought I was learning something, he just showed me real quick. That's it. That's what you did, and just disappear. It disappear on me. You know what I'm saying? So I would always call him back. So
right. The money's in the comeback.
Yeah. So that's the learning the technology and. Even with the phone, I still have problems with the phone and stuff like that, Floyd, my brother Floyd over there, he my tech man. I always call him for help, assistance. He helped me do my first website. He helped me with my chat box that we have. We put together a chat box we're trying to market and sell to attorneys, to help attorneys so they don't have to. We realize that attorneys have busy schedules. I know this from working with them.
Right.
And a lot of times they don't have the time to answer the phone or to answer your legal questions. So we're trying to design chat boxes for them to put that database in there, the same database that I explained to you. So when their clients call, they can get the answers that they want. Right. They get the answers right there on the phone and stuff.
Now, you showed me something very interesting earlier. I was able to chat with AI and get law advice depending on what state I'm in, what situation I find myself in, and that's called. The name was
Paralegal Pal.
ParalegalPal.net. What made you come up with that?
when I got out of jail, again, going back to
They
my
needing the
grandson,
help and
I've
all
been
that.
asking for help and
Right.
ask people for directions, ask people, you know, you deal with a lot of attitudes, people just don't have the time to help you. They in their own world, they doing their own thing. All of that's understandable. But it was also difficult to not know certain things, okay? And when I was in jail, I had to access to all of the books, the legal system, because in some of the jails I was in, the warden gave me access because I was helping a lot of underprivileged inmates do their legal work and stuff like that and so
Right.
on. So when I came out, I didn't have that access anymore. Actually, when I opened my office was actually in the public library. I used to go there and use the public library computer. I used to have business meetings there and stuff like that and so on. And then I was able to get my own computers and stuff like that and
Right.
my own phone system and stuff like that, you know. And, you know, the AI system, again, was something that I learned that I can use my database, my knowledge, grab books, procedures and stuff, and other people's database knowledge and put it together. And what I did was programmed a lot of questions, a lot of prompts within a system and made sure that it's able to address almost every legal question that I can ask it and intertwined it with the internet system and stuff like that. I had Terrence and also Floyd help me design a lot of my work and put this stuff together because, like, again, I don't have that technical knowledge. I know what I want to do. I can give them the ideal,
Yeah, and
you know,
then-
and let them put it together and stuff like that.
Right.
So now we're trying to market it and trying to help and assist other people. Like I said, you could be walking down the street and something could happen. You know, somebody could stop you, accuse you of committing a crime, and you could just get right on the app and ask the app, what should you do? How should you handle the situation? And it'll tell you, and the app is not just limited to New York State. As you can
Right.
see, it's limited to
Yeah.
Jersey,
Wherever you
Georgia,
at,
Florida,
yeah.
wherever you at. All you do is tell the app and it pulls that law from that particular circuit, you know?
In a second, it was instant.
Right,
You said you're also working on a halfway house.
right.
What?
Yes, alliances for new beginnings, and that's a halfway house that I'm in partnership with Terrence, Tiana Carter, her daughter, and Gerald Miller Prince. We're putting it together. We're trying to open a halfway house in Brooklyn. We got somebody that's trying to give us a building now. We're trying to find grants and donations and money to put this thing together. You know, we got a nice plan, we got a nice idea, and I think it's going to work. I think it's needed in the community and so on, you know.
Well, what did, you know, being someone who went through the system, came out, what do you think was the things that you saw that was like, this has to change?
I think some of the rules, some of the stipulations that they put on the inmates, criterias that has to be met for like job interviews and stuff like that. I think most of your halfway houses today, for example, they don't really know what an inmate needs when he's getting out of the system. Most of the people that's running and operating these halfway houses, unlike myself, have never experienced being in jail or going to jail or coming out needing a fresh start.
Right.
So, you know, they're looking at a boilerplate first start. Go down here, fill out 5 applications. Okay, what if I'm an inmate or I'm a person who can't read or write? You know what I'm saying? Go back to my app system again. Part of that app system too, you'll see once you go into it, if you can't read or write, you can ask it to draft you a letter. Draft me a letter for a job, for an appointment. Draft me a letter to remove my lawyer off my case, and it'll draft the letter. If you give it the facts your name, your lawyer's address. It'll incorporate all of those facts into the letter, and so that the letter's just ready to be signed and filed. You know.
That's helpful. But when you were coming out, what was the difficulty readjusting and getting used to this world?
Finding a job, you know, like for example, my parole officer told me, when I first got out, I had a law firm that wanted to hire me. They wanted to give me $1,000 a week, give me a computer. They was gonna set me up, but they told me I couldn't work for the law firm because the lawyer was under some type of investigation. And they told me that I couldn't work with anybody who was under a criminal investigation or somebody who's in jail and so on. Then they sent me to Legal Aid Society. But when I got down to Legal Aid Society, I realized most of the guys down there was in jail or in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So I said, what is going on with this here trick here?
Right.
You know, so I just said, I told them, I decided I'm just gonna open my own business and go out on my own, you know, and so on. At that particular time, I still had so many people that I was helping and assisting that was incarcerated, that was reaching out to me to help them get out, you know, to help them. You know, all of the guys that laughed at me when I was to walk the yard, man, you going to that library again? You never going home, stupid. You wasting your time. Those were the guys who was calling me when I got out. You know what I'm saying?
Now they see what it is.
You know?
Wow. What a feeling of vindication. It's gotta be tough finding yourself in a situation where you lose your freedom unjustly, unlawfully, and you know, gathering from your conversation, there was family on the outside that you were leaving. And being in there for 25 years, educating yourself, putting yourself in a position to not only help yourself but to help others. You're back in the world. You could be doing whatever you want to do right now, but you're still on this mission to help.
But we need the help, man. If you look at the mission that the system is on, they're gonna destroy us. You know what I'm saying? You come into a black and brown neighborhood and you arrest 50 people on the corner, right? If you listen to the testimony sometimes, you see half of those people don't even know each other. Half of them are ops. But now you have these people telling against each other. Some not telling, some not knowing that they're telling. You know what I'm saying? And it's just destroying the whole community. You know, our mindset, and it's all focus. You know what I'm saying? We lost, man, and if we don't come together and start helping and assisting each other and trying to educate ourselves as to what's going on with us, we're gonna lose out terribly, man, terribly.
You've seen it firsthand.
I don't know if you heard what Young Thug said, right?
What?
He can't even sell a record. He can't even make a record now. Why? Because the people that he growed up with the last 10, 15 years are gone. He don't know who to talk to now. He don't know who to trust. You see what that does?
Yeah.
So forget about the prison time that you're doing on top of that.
Or
the prison time that you can do
too. He feels the isolation.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it destroys you. It puts you in a market where you can't, I'll give you an example. I know a situation, 2 brothers. One is in jail for murder. The other one is out of jail, right? The one that's in jail is the one who didn't do the murder. The one who's out of jail is the one who did do the murder. You follow me?
Right.
So when one who went to trial, he sat there and he said, okay, well, my brother's gonna step up like a man, and he's gonna take responsibility for his crime. I can go home, live it. But his brother didn't do that. So when he got to trial, he decided to say, well, listen, yeah, I was at the scene and the murder happened. It wasn't me, it was my brother. Now you have the conflict of, is that snitching? You understand what I'm saying? Or who's responsible? Who you see the damage that this thing does to our community, allowing the government to pay for testimony. You heard what Donald Trump said, right?
What?
He said it should be criminal that somebody could pay somebody to testify against you. They could walk and they're the actual criminal and you can go to jail.
There's no repercussions for people who provide false testimonies.
Not
Nothing.
None at all.
It's someone can make up a story about you tomorrow, and without the right representation,
you did.
could stick.
As long as they believe that story. See, it's all about selling the story, and regardless of what happens, you know, when you start going into the definition of snitching and talking, I thought the YSL case with Young Thug was one of the best cases ever to identify what goes on with paid testimony and what could actually happen to you. You know, all of those guys that was called to testify, you see how they flipped on the government and didn't say anything?
right?
If most cases did that, they wouldn't even waste the time or the money to even try taking those cases to trial.
Well, what do you feel about the YNW Melly situation?
I think if I remember correctly, his co-defendant copped out or something like that, and they offered him 6 years. You know, that's what you run into those situations, and it's forcing him to cop out. You run into those situations where, and I'm just going to give my opinion, you end up having innocent people in jail because people cop out. Like me and you could be partners. We could hang out on the street and we get caught doing something. And don't nobody really know what me and you did but me and you.
Right.
You decide to take a plea. Then I'm saying, damn, man, my man that took a plea on me, man. I'm not even going to wonder whether or not you're going to testify against me. Now it might force me to cop out to the crime. And it might be a situation like P. Diddy. It might be a case where they can't prove. They're not going to prove. They can't prove the case. But now you're copping out, forcing me to cop out, and now we both end up, 90% of the time, the federal government overcharge you anyway. You end up copping out the charges of crimes that you cop out, you plead guilty to a crime that you actually did, and that's the only crime they could have convicted you of. But they overcharge you to, I call it fear factor, to give you fear factors. Or you're facing 100 years, you know?
Right.
Back in the day, I'll give you a little history. Back in the day, I'll say when Guy Fisher and them was coming up, because Guy Fisher and Wallace Rice and those guys, they under the old law, okay? If you get caught selling drugs on the corner and stuff like that, you could get 3 years, 5 years. Okay, so me and you partners, I get caught, man, yo, shit, they got me, man. Do me a favor, man. Look out for my girl and my kids and stuff, man.
Right.
Take care of them, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead in there and do this time. People could do that. Now what the government did was they manipulated the sentencing scheme to give you life sentences, mandatory 10 years, mandatory 20 years. So the average guy now, you get caught, you say, damn, man, listen, these people want me to do 20 years. I can't do that for you. If it was 3 or 4 years, brother, I could do that for you, man. You gotta step up, man. You gotta do it. You know, I'm gonna plead guilty. I think you need to plead guilty too.
They got us.
See what you just said?
They got us. Come out the bushes. Come out the bushes. They got us.
So that's what you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I watching the Young Thug case, I was confused because I was like, okay, he took a plea, but he's not a snitch. He took a plea, but he's a snitch. I'm not following. I do remember John Gotti saying, yo, if it's a RICO, keep your mouth closed.
Yeah, right. See, if you listen to, while I was in the federal system, I worked on all type of cases. All of the gangs, the Crips, the Bloods, Larry Hoover and them, GDs, what they call them, Jesus, Latin Kings, the Italian boys, John Gotti co-defendants, Mikey Truccio and them, right? The Italian boys believe this. If you sit down and you talk to the feds or any state official about anything, you snitching. They believe that you should never talk to them, never communicate with them at all, and that's just their policy.
Right.
You know, even Anthony Viola, the one with the 10 life sentences, got him out. They wanted him to do a podcast. He wouldn't do a podcast because he looked at the podcast as snitching. You know, sitting on there, if I say anything about my case, anything about the guys that I dealt with in life, that is snitching. You know.
Do you think that the code or what was a code back then, do you think it still applies today?
No, I look at, I'm gonna speak for self. I look at the code very differently now after looking at and monitoring so many cases. You know what I'm saying? I get a different definition of snitch. And I'll just give you one example, okay? And then you could choose for yourself. As a drug kingpin, for example, we put little young kids out on the street to sell drugs for us to make money.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? We're using them, right?
Right.
So if they get caught, they go to jail, they're supposed to swallow that, right? So now we all know that for years, since the beginning of the time, people have been snitching and telling. So you should know coming into the business that that's part of the game, okay? So that same little young kid that you put on the corner to sell nickels and dimes, he get caught now. He want to get out of trouble, just like you wanted to get out of trouble when you used him. So when he tell on you, is he just giving you payback?
He's using you too.
The same way you used him.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break. Yeah, but it's just fucked up. Cause you don't know how to call this shit no more.
You can't. Well, you don't call it.
yeah, pretty much.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like I said, the feds are so smart. They designed the system that way. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what is created, and so that breaks us up. So we no longer united. So now it becomes more difficult for us to fight together. You know, I had a co-defendant.
Yeah, I meant to ask you because in the case of YNW Melly, he's been locked up for like 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
No bail. They doing the same thing with they're doing the same thing with Diddy.
My friend called it the sweat box. They put you in the sweat box. You know what I'm saying? No bail. So
but that in itself is just a foul way to play. Like
right.
we're gonna keep you in here.
You heard it in Young Thug's testimony. Remember he gave his testimony?
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm trying to get back home to my family.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So they making those decisions based upon stress factors. They're not intelligent decisions. You know what I'm saying? They're not
duress.
They're not thinking about the snitching or I'm telling them, man, listen, man, I want to get back home to my family, my girl. I ain't been home in 10 years, man. Let me just put this behind me, man. And keep it moving.
So they can't use a witness statement if he's under duress. But they'll take your plea under duress.
Yes, right.
This is
but they protect themselves because when they take that plea, you know what they ask you? Have anybody threatened you? Have anybody promised you anything?
Yeah, y'all. You know, with another 100 years. That's crazy.
Okay, I got a friend here. He has a question for you.
Of course, I'd be happy to help out your friend too. Just let me know what they need and we can dive right in.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey there, I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I hope you're doing well too. Just let me know what you need and I'm here to help.
Well, I'm kind of in a sticky situation. I got pulled over in New York City. I have my license, and I have a license to carry, but I have 3 kilos of cocaine in the trunk. Are they allowed to search my vehicle?
Well, that's definitely a pretty serious situation. So here's the general idea. If you're pulled over and the police have probable cause to believe there's something illegal in the car, like they see something in plain view or they have another reason to suspect there's contraband, they can search your vehicle without a warrant. Now, if they don't have probable cause, they generally need your consent or some other legal basis. But when it comes to something as serious as drugs in the trunk, if they do find it, that can lead to some pretty significant charges. So it's definitely a tricky spot to be in.
Okay, so there's nothing in plain sight, and they said that they pulled me over because I was speeding. Are they allowed to search my vehicle?
Yeah, that's a good follow-up. So if they just pulled you over for something like speeding and there's nothing in plain sight and no obvious smell or anything like that, they wouldn't typically have the right to just search your vehicle without either your consent or some sort of probable cause. Speeding alone doesn't automatically give them the right to search your car, so if there's no other reason and you haven't given consent, they generally shouldn't be searching it just based on a traffic stop for speeding.
So you're saying if they search my vehicle, it's illegal?
Right. So in that scenario, if they don't have a valid reason, like no probable cause and you didn't give consent, then yes, a search could be considered illegal. That means if they went ahead and searched your car without any proper justification, it could be a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights. So if that happened, definitely something you'd want to talk to a lawyer about because any evidence they found might be challenged in court.
Well, thank you very much. Luckily, I do not have 3 kilos of cocaine in my trunk. I was just asking the question, but thank you for giving me an honest answer.
Oh, you definitely had me there for a second, but I'm glad it's just a hypothetical. Anytime you need to throw a curveball question like that at me, feel free. I'm always here to give you the rundown.
Okay, I got a good curveball question for you. Listen, I just got home. I just got released from jail, right? Child support is knocking on my door. I don't have the money to make any child support payments. Can you help me out? What can I do to get out of that scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a real-world curveball a lot of people face. So one of the first steps you can do is go back to the court and file for a modification of your child support order. Basically, you explain that your financial circumstances have changed since you were incarcerated or now that you're just getting back on your feet, and you ask the court to recalculate the payments based on your current income or lack of income. Courts are generally willing to work with you if you show that you genuinely can't pay and you're making an effort. So that's the route to go. Ask for a modification and see if they can adjust it to something more manageable.
Downloading now. So what cases are you working on now?
Okay, right now I'm working on a lot of high-profile cases where guys are still incarcerated. But in my past history, I'm going to start out and maybe go down the line and hope that I don't forget some names. In the past, like I said, I helped Guy Fisher, who was a co-defendant of Nicky Barnes. Guy Fisher was responsible for 8 murders at the time that he was sentenced to life in prison. I first helped out his co-defendant, Wallace Rice, and was able to get Wallace Rice home, and Guy Fisher and his attorney contacted me and asked for help and assistance in Guy's case, and I was able to help them, and Guy is home now and doing well. God bless his co-defendant, Wallace Rice. Wallace Rice passed away, and so on. Yes. I also helped out an Italian mobster, Anthony Viola. Anthony Viola had money laundering and marijuana case. He had 10 life sentences. We were able to get him back home to his family after working on his case. We helped.
What was the stipulation that got
his age, a loyal inmate that was in jail and incarcerated, and what we did was we asked the court to have some consideration of some of the ghost drugs, the relevant conduct that was used to impose those 10 life sentences for crimes that was never proven, and the court gave it some consideration and allowed him to go back home with his family.
Wow. Wow.
We also helped Gerald Miller. I helped Gerald Miller. We did a documentary with Nas and Gerald Miller on his case. That documentary was on some of the work that I do as a paralegal and helping and assisting people. In that case, Gerald Miller explained why he hired me and used me to assist his lawyer in doing work and getting the job done. And he spoke very highly on his confidence in me as a jailhouse lawyer and his ability to get home because he's a changed person. I'm also in the process.
Wait, this is the documentary that's premiering on the 1st?
No, this is a documentary that occurred about 2 years ago, I think.
2 years
Years
ago.
ago, right? When Nas did. Yeah, it was on Showtime, right? It was actually Showtime. The documentary had 3 episodes. I was in episode 3. They showed the picture of me and the motion that I had drafted up for Prince, and at this present time, I'm working on a couple of motions for Supreme. Supreme has a documentary that's coming out on October the 15th. That'll be airing called Mundane Truth, and it's a very good clip of his case and him presenting how he had an unfair trial, he had an unjust trial, and I would definitely say it's something worth watching, something that you should get into, and you can really get a good look at how this federal system is being ran. But
Are there any updates on his status as far as him coming home?
a couple of things pending. He has some strong issues, but we dealing with, and I have to be honest, we're dealing with a corrupt federal system that probably won't want to hear his issue. He has the issue. The issue is solid. He has an issue of a complete denial of counsel of his choice. He has the issue where he can prove and show that an informant lied against him, and he could just show some of the prosecutor misconduct in his case. He has the exhibits to support it. He tried to present a lot of that in his 2255, but it just wasn't heard. But hopefully it'll get heard on a 60B motion of reconsideration, or even a compassionate release motion. You know, let's see, boy. It's quite a few cases, man. It's just kind of hard to keep up with them.
And you're also working with Mike Tyson?
Oh yes, working with one of Mike Tyson's best friends. Name I call him Scooter. His name is Spence Bowings. He's incarcerated in Allenwood. He's a good guy. This guy is a excellent guy. He was arrested and charged with conspiracy. I think he actually only had that one count, conspiracy, and received a life sentence as being a member of the 90 posses. And he stands a very good chance because of his post-conviction rehabilitation of coming home and stuff like that. I helped prepare a clemency motion that was given to a lawyer, I believe, that Mike Tyson is paying for Scooter to help represent Scooter. And hopefully Scooter can get out and Scooter can get on with his life. He's one of the very few people that come from the old laws that's still in there, and the court system seemed to have forgotten about him and just haven't pushed up on his cases yet. Wow. Hopefully with the help with Mike Tyson and others, he could be out of there soon, you know.
I want to ask, because from what you're saying, a lot of this stuff depends on evidence of your rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to stay out of trouble on the inside?
It's hard, but the good thing is that the system knows that. But you have to show that you're willing to do it. Some of the biggest problems or situations you have when people are not getting granted motions, you might have, say, for example, a gangbanger, and he doesn't want to denounce that he's no longer a gangbanger. He doesn't want to take the position to say, I'm no longer a Latin king. I turned my life around. And for some of them, it's understandable because to them, it's a step where they could be putting their life in jeopardy for their gang members retaliating and stuff like that and so on.
In the case of Casanova, they're saying that, you know, he may have got his face slashed because of denouncing. I don't know how true that is.
You know, they say blood in, blood out. You know, that's part of it. At some death, you know what I'm saying, and so on. You know.
I do want to say shout out to Hocus 4/5. I've been seeing the Drop Your Flag challenge. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think once you get in there, and this is my personal opinion, and if you sit down and you get a chance, like most people do, to observe your life, the mistakes that you made in the past, you have to now make a decision as to whether or not your life and your family is worth that change. You know what I'm saying? And most people, they don't understand the value, the importance of a family and a life, living a life the right way. So it's difficult for them to do, or difficult for you to ask them to do that because they just don't understand it, you know. They gangbang until they die, you know what I'm saying?
Well, do you think that it's a positive for these brothers that's deciding to leave the gangs and drop their flag?
Oh, most definitely, it's a positive, and it's a great movement to bring the black families back together. You know what I'm saying, and put them right back on the right track. You know, we're so lost with that. You look at, for example, let's take Young Thug and them again with all the snitching and the rumors of snitching. Okay, you'll have an individual who will drop his family for the gang, and then look what happens. Now they find themselves on an island by themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, your family, one of the things I noticed was that at the end of the day, after doing your time, doing your punishment, your family is the one that's there for you. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else is gone, you know?
Was that the case for you when you came home?
Yeah, my family, my daughter was there. My family, especially my daughter was unbelievable, you know what I'm saying? She had even went to FBI school to make sure that this wouldn't happen to her dad or nobody else in her family in the future. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have accomplished all the things that you accomplished if not for family?
I wouldn't have never been able to accomplish none of this, the education or anything, without my daughter. I was able to go to school, pay for my schooling through her and stuff like that. She's just a great, unbelievable help, and my daughter is actually number one in my life. You know.
Tommy Walker. The name of the app is called
Paralegal Pal.
Paralegalpal.net. Paralegalpal.net. I think everybody, it doesn't matter if you're in a crime or not. Like it's not a crime thing. It's an education thing. And I think all of us kind of find ourselves in a difficult situation, a situation that we might not completely understand. And it's good to have a tool that we can figure out and sort out what's going on. Tommy, I appreciate you, brother. And I commend you for the work that you've been doing. I commend you for your path. There's a lot of people who would have given up. There's a lot of people who, would have just cut themselves
With that said,
off.
can I make 2 shout-outs?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to make a shout-out to my brother X, man. Xavier Williams, brother. We got you, man. I'm working on your case thoroughly, man, bro. I think you deserve to be home, and I'm going to make sure I put out 100% for you, brother. And you too, Dexter. Big Dex, keep your head up. I got you, bro. I'm with you, man. And the other brothers, even though I didn't mention your name, I haven't forgot about you guys, man. I'm still out here fighting, trying to get things done.
Salute.
It's hot for trapper turn smack rapper. Only smack rapper that you know is smack rapper.